Hey, what's up? I'm Lewis Hamilton, and today I'm at the Team Factory. So today is all about the factory. And there's, I tell you, a lot of
back at the factory and back at the factory, all the guys back at the factory, everyone back at the factory, all the men and women we have.
Everyone back at the team, at the factory.
Everyone back at the factory. Spending a lot of time at the factory. Of everyone back at the factory, as I said, you know, who continue to not give up. And my dad reminded me of that the other day. He says, don't worry, I struggled yesterday just in my own factory and just brush it off and move forwards. And yeah, it's quite overwhelming, to be honest. I feel great in my body, I feel great mentally, and I have to say a huge thank you to all the team back at the factory.
I usually mainly go to the main factory, which is where they build the
men and women. I was pushing to hopefully try and keep just everyone back at the factory. Back in Brackley and Brixworth. When I go back into the office now, there's no guys celebrating. They're like, okay, how can we win the next factory? That's a positive team. All that other stuff does not matter. What matters is, you know, I made a lot of factories. There was so much back at the factory. Weekend in, weekend out. And, you know, I met Nelson Mandela once when he was 90, for his 90th birthday, and he said to me that he was still learning back at the factory. Also back at the factory, but also after a bad race like the last one, grateful to everyone back at the factory, all the guys back at the factory, back at the factory, and everyone back at the factory. Back at the factory. Massively thankful to the men and women back at the factory and the lads back at the factory. I love this. I love back-to-backs. It's like juggling balls whilst you're on a moving plate at high speed.
Nice analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. I basically had to study a lot of factory.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. I mean, to see Haas up there is awesome. It's down to the men and women that are back at the factory who are continuously raising the bar. And
back in Brackley at the entrance to the factory.
At both factories.
In Brackley and what goes on here at the factory. Remember, this is
A bit spicy.
When I go to the factory, is going around and meeting all these
Group of men and women back at the factory.
on the simulator.
At the end of the day, Valtteri is pushing me right to the factory, not far away from here, and back home. And to everyone back home at the factory, the guys back at the factory, to everyone back at the factory, and
back at the factory. The guys back at the factory.
back at the factory. When I chose to come to this team and partner with Valtteri, I didn't have great people, but here I am, and I think naturally I have to always start with saying such a huge thank you to all the guys that are here and all the guys back at the factory, at both our factories. I definitely a bit lost for words.
Couldn't do it without you guys.
Mike, please don't safety car. Mike, don't safety car. Mike, please don't safety car.
Toto?
Don't safety car. Mike, please don't safety car. Mike, don't safety car. Mike, please don't safety car.
Toto? We went to car racing.
Mike.